All right, so this is the first of two lessons that finish off this section on solving equations, in which, in general, we'll see there's going to be variables on both sides of the equation. And they tend to, there's going to take a few steps, and we have lots and lots and lots of choices. So here's an example of an equation with the same variable, but they're on either side of the equation. So at some point, I need to deal with this. I want to figure out what a is. And I have a on both sides of the equation. 7a on one side, 5a on the other. So what I like to do is right away change this so that there's only some value of a on the left or just the right, not both. And I can do that quite quickly in two different ways. One thing I could do is subtract 7a from both sides. If I do that, 7a is gone from the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, I have 5 minus 7a, or 5 minus 7, which is negative 2a left. Or what's the other option? The other option is to subtract 5a from both sides. And I kind of like this better, so that's what I'm actually going to do, because that cancels out. And on the left-hand side, I have 7 minus 5, which is 2, which is a positive value. Before I had a negative value. So I have 2a plus 8 on one side and negative 2. And in general, once you realize there's variables on both sides of the equation, you always have options. I would always recommend finding the coefficient, canceling out the coefficient that's smaller. I had 5 and 7 for my two coefficients of a. 5 was smaller, so I got rid of that one. With that said, it doesn't really matter as long as you're careful with your negatives. At this point, I have just, a on the left-hand side of the equation, so I would next just subtract 8 from both sides. So I have 2a equals negative 2, take away 8 is negative 10. And I can already see the answer, but I'll finish it off like this, divide both sides by 2. So a equals negative 5. All right, so with that said, I just have one more example here. I have variables on both sides of the equation, but they're also involving brackets. Lots of choices. I would recommend right away first distributing these coefficients in front of the brackets. So on the left-hand side, I have 3b plus 18 on the left-hand side. On the right side, I have 5b minus 10. All right, so now I got rid of the brackets by distributing. Now it's kind of like the last question. I have 3b on one side, I have 5b on the other. I'm going to get rid of the smaller of those, which is the 3. So I'm going to subtract 3b from both sides, which cancels that out completely, which means on the left-hand side, all I have left is 18. On the right-hand side, I have 5b, take away 3b. That's 2b, and then minus 10. All right, so now I've simplified this down a lot. I have just a single variable of b on the right-hand side. Well, there's two of them, but I don't have b's on the other side. And so I should be able to finish this off now in two more steps. I'm going to add 10 to both sides to cancel that out. And so I have 28 equals 2b. And finally, I can kind of see what b is, but I'm just going to divide both sides by 2 to cancel out that coefficient of 2 in the front of b. And so b equals 14. Not surprisingly, as we come to the end of this chapter in this unit, the equations are getting more involved than they were a few lessons ago, but it all builds upon the exact same idea of methodically and carefully applying some sort of operation to both sides or distributing things and showing our work vertically, one step below the next, until eventually we have just the variable isolated.